It was one of the most memorable and bemusing NFL drafts in history, and it took place over the weekend. And we're here in Muscle Cat Studios to catch you up on every little bit of it. Curtis DeBoer, your QB3 here. We've got Matt Maidman, known as Doss, the QB1. We've got Chris Hall, known as Hawley, the QB, the QB2. He's done the salute as well. It's the Outback QB podcast. It's a big day, boys. It's a big day because we are condensing 3 days of draft fun into one roughly hour-long episode. Doss,
Curtis.
After day one, you were cooked. You were posting about yourself in the third person, as a few listeners noted out on Instagram. You had yourself
Who else is going to do it?
I do posts. But you were exhausted on the couch after day one. Did you perk up after day two? I mean, that was chaotic as well. Day three, we finally saw a big name drop there. So how you feeling?
I'm feeling good, thank you. Hawley's couch, very comfortable, which is...
that was Hawley's couch?
Yeah, where we watched the draft together. Nug joined us in his Texans gear, didn't see one pick.
One Texans pick anyway.
One didn't see one Texans pick.
He'd been waiting for hours, waiting for Texas to draft an O-lineman, then all of a sudden, bang, they don't have a pick.
I love
Poor
that.
guys, watch his heart break in front of us.
The most desperate need in the NFL when they trade out. Love that.
Poor nugget.
But yeah, day two is always fun. I like day two of the draft. Get through the picks a bit quicker and move it along a bit. And then, day three, woke up. Most of it was done. I decided to go back and watch it from the start for about the first, 10 to 15 picks around 4, then started moving through it fairly quickly.
Well, you can see I've got the replay of day two at the moment on here. Just picking up little tidbits. Always learning, Doss. Always learning. Hawley, you hosted Doss and Nugget as Doss just said. How was your draft experience?
It was fun. I just sat on the couch and watched it. Doss was busy on the computer.
And then you just followed along on the WhatsApp for days 2 and 3?
Pretty much. I was texting Nugget about some of the picks that were coming through. I was like, look, man, Doss is sending them all through. I'll just screenshot what he sends and send it to you.
It's amazing. I mean, we go to the WhatsApp before we go to ESPN these days.
Doss is faster.
What do you mean a live tracker? Doss is, exactly. If there was no delay on the TV, Doss would be the fastest man on earth.
Yes, true.
But look, we had a great response to our draft episode on YouTube last week, boys. It's our most viewed full episode. We've had almost 200 people watch that, on top of all the people who listen on audio as well. So those numbers didn't drop. We just had another 200 people tuning in online to watch it was a 2-hour extravaganza. That's what I'm calling it. So thank you for everyone who subscribed, who watched, who liked, who commented. I think there's still people discovering that episode now, and there might be for the next few weeks too. We're pretty proud of that show. There was a lot of production that went into it in the background, and of course, so many people that listened to the show contributed as well. And we had video clips of our listeners on there. It was awesome. So if you haven't checked it out yet, please do. But more broadly, Doss, YouTube, we're starting to take off a little bit there. Like, when I say take off, I mean relative to how we've been going. We've got more people watching. We've got 3,000 views on one of our shorts this week. It's starting to reap some rewards.
It's great. Yeah, everyone, please subscribe. Hit the little button below.
Yeah, the little bell, the
notification
bell.
and the notification bell to turn it on to.
That's right.
So as soon as we
because
drop,
you haven't got enough push notifications on your phone in your life at the moment, just add one more to it.
That's right, and this is an important one. And then follow on Spotify as well.
Absolutely. If you haven't already, and if you have already, thank you very much. Now, we have got a fair few points to get through before we get into our first round analysis. We're going to go through all of the picks in the first round briefly, just to marry it up with our mock draft and things like that. We're going to go through 2 teams each that we loved their draft, and then I've got 2 teams who I was a bit underwhelmed by, let's put it that way. We've got our draft risers and fallers. We've got joke of the week. And at the end, just before the joke, I'm going to run through every quarterback that was taken, just so everybody knows who went where, because that was potentially the most confusing part of this draft. And we'll get to that. But a couple of little things, boys, just general palaver. Not even draft related. Dennis from Brisbane. I have to give a shout out to Dennis. I was in Brisbane for work a week and a half ago, and I was with some colleagues, and he ran past their outstretched arms to shake his hand. He literally batted them away and said, "I'm here to see one man," and that's Kurt from the Outback QB podcast. It was nothing to do with the Outback QB. He said he listens every week. The first question he asked was, "How steep is the driveway really?" Which was an amazing question. And
20 degrees.
And I know he's a real listener when he asked that question. It's not a general NFL stuff. He listens to everyone. So thank you very much, Dennis. Appreciate that, mate. It was great to meet you. Richard Gosling, I don't know if you remember, he introduced pick
Eagles.
32, the Eagles, last week. And I introduced him as the constant thorn in my side, Richard Gosling. He introduced by I'm going to say it, the constant thorn in my side, who is Richard Gosling. he just emailed and said, "Constant thorn in your side. I invited you to dinner when you're in Brisbane, mate." So I do apologise to Richard.
He's offered to buy you dinner and you...
No. He didn't offer to buy me dinner. He invited me to dinner. So I
he
assume
still bought the ingredients for dinner.
I would have paid for... Hey? No, isn't like we'll go out for dinner and beers.
Oh, sorry. I thought
look,
invited to his
Richard,
house for
in
dinner.
advance, I will pay for dinner in full as apology for this. But he did email me that. I thought he was seriously hurt by it. I wrote back, "Oh, mate, I am actually very sorry. I didn't mean that. I just meant, you've corrected me on some stuff in the past. It was more a light jab." He wrote back, "Mate, I'm not actually offended. This is more just jibing." I was like, "Oh, my goodness." So I went back and I just made a complete meal of it. So, Richard, not only did you get an apology from me in email, not only am I acknowledging it now, but he's been a thorn in my side again by tricking me into thinking he was upset. So he's got the wood on me. He's absolutely in my head, Doss.
It's great. I love it, actually. More of it, I reckon, Hawley, too.
Good on you, Rich. You're doing well, mate. Not a thorn in my side at all. Now, Hawley, I was going to play a prank on you today.
Oh.
In light of the Shedeur Sanders prank call fiasco, which we'll get to in a little bit,
And Tyler Warren.
And Tyler Warren. And someone else. Who else was it? Someone who didn't get drafted. Xavier Restrepo, I think. He copped one as well. I was going to call you from someone's phone that you don't have and pretend to be the selection committee for the Australian flag football team in the 2028 Los Angeles Olympics.
2028.
Just thought, hey, come along for a trial, Chris. We've heard you're a great footballer from way back. Your NFL, so come along.
I'm not sure how I would have reacted.
Yeah, I know. I should have done it. I just ran out of time. And then you came over early, so I ran out of time to do it.
I would have either been really excited to get here and talk about it, or I would have realised that it was a genuine joke.
To be honest, I was spooked because last time I tried to play a joke on someone, I thought I offended Richard and then I didn't. So I lost my confidence on that a bit. One more issue before we get to draft stuff, and that is, of course, it's the election this week, boys. The Australian election. New Prime Minister, or potentially same Prime Minister, to be re-elected. So I put out to our listeners on Instagram, who do you think, out of the hosts of this show, who would you vote for to be Prime Minister? Hawley, how do you think you went?
I don't think I would have done very well. I think Doss would have done very, very well.
Well, you got 27% of the vote, which puts you in third, but don't be too upset because I got 28% of it.
Actually, you know what? Hold on a minute.
What?
Vote for himself.
Voted yet.
Go on, jump on. I haven't voted either. I'll vote for you, and that'll knock you above.
Get me above the boy. Outback.
Well, the Outback QB official account may have voted for me too. So.
Oh, of course it did. Holy.
All right, well, let's flip that then.
Still at 27. Get me up to 28, Doss.
No, vote for yourself, Doss. Don't vote for him.
Doss is miles ahead. I just checked. I just had it.
Yeah, Doss 45%, me 28, Hawley 27. You'd be happy with that, Doss?
Oh, well, I am, yeah.
And all it took was
nice.
was literally 1 million hours of campaigning via direct message on Instagram. That's all it took.
You're still at 27% even with my vote.
Did you vote for him too?
Yeah.
This is a joke. All right. Anyway.
Well, he's still behind you.
Is he?
Yeah.
That's good. I must have had a late vote. Thanks, Mum. General stuff from the draft. A few little bits and pieces. Doss, do you want to start with Mr. Irrelevant?
Oh, sure.
Who was it?
Kobe Minor, defensive back out of Memphis to the New England Patriots.
Okay. Was he expected to be drafted or was he right on the cusp?
Didn't look enough into that
okay.
particular
That's the one player you didn't look into. That's amazing.
To be honest. Well,
Sorry, I shouldn't have asked a follow-up.
Yeah. I just asked you before the show, did you know who Mr. Irrelevant was? Should have done an impromptu Doss's trivia.
You know what? I think Mr. Irrelevant's lost its luster since Brock Purdy has gone so well because no one's going to match up to that ever again, I don't think. There's a new heaviest player in the NFL, in NFL history. Now, he wasn't drafted. He was an undrafted free agent soon after the draft. Desmond Watson, not Deshaun Watson, no relation, Desmond Watson, defensive tackle to the Bucks, 464 pounds. That's 210 kilos.
That is so big. Most of these guys are about 150.
He's 21. He's 21% of a ton.
Now, next to Vita Vea there in Tampa, that's over 800 pounds.
If he plays.
Now look,
those two boys playing together could stop the tush push.
I don't think he's going to play much. I mean, safe to say he's a run stuffer. He's no sack machine.
That is
in his last 38 games in college, he had 1 sack. He can't really penetrate the backfield, but he can stop a run because you literally can't run past him.
Goal line. Bring him in on the goal line.
I agree. Yep.
All those two would have to do is just stand next to each other. Just put their arms together, stand next to each other, block it, make a wall.
Yeah, it's like it's...
It'd be like a 3 meter wide wall that's what? probably 2.5 meters high.
It was like in primary school when you were playing soccer and you just picked the biggest kid to be goalie, just because, I mean,
them.
statistically it made sense. The Ravens, this isn't as fun, but they drafted a kicker, so watch out. The old JT thing rolls on. The investigation continues. So Tyler Loop in the 6th round for the Ravens. He's gone there. The Pats, not only did they draft Mr. Irrelevant, they drafted a long snapper, boys, in the 7th round. The first time in 4 years that a team has drafted a long snapper.
Good pick.
Julian Ashby. So Hawley, I know, was pumped about that. Couldn't get enough of it. Demetrius Knight Jr., the linebacker taken by the Bengals in the 2nd round. Did you see his interview, Dos?
No, I didn't.
He was talking about him and his partner gave birth to a little girl, baby girl, a couple of years ago, and he was in college and he was struggling to make ends meet. They were working as DoorDash delivery people, and he was working all these extra hours, and he was so humble and so well-spoken. It's worth looking it up. Look up Demetrius Knight's interview, and it was just a man who seemed to have great character and was so concerned with putting, as he said, food and milk on the table for his baby. And he just said the other night we couldn't believe it because now we never have to worry about that again. And it was just a humbling experience for him. So that was a really cool moment. Even though I thought they reached for him, he seems like a good dude. So
that's good. There was another thing, and Hawley and I were watching it together, and Maxwell Hairston just dabbing everyone.
Oh, he was the hype man in the green room. That was cool.
Everyone coming out of the green
Very
room,
cool.
and then eventually he got picked up by the Bills, which was awesome. And same thing. Really cool.
Yeah.
Humble, just getting around everyone, just happy for all the other boys getting drafted.
Was it Will Campbell who broke down in tears?
Yeah.
That was awesome too. Like he could hardly get a word out because he was so emotional. He's just been drafted and, you know, well deserved. Ashton Genty seemed like a good dude too.
I think Ashton Genty's pretty level headed.
Yeah, he seemed cool. He was a very affable character, and I like Travis Hunter where he goes, I want to cry right now. I should be crying, but I'm too excited. It's so good. So there was a lot of real joy on the stage, and that was nice. Like
Roger gets a few spinal adjustments on stage. They get up and
he's an affectionate man. Well, do you remember last year he had the back issue, so we were worried about him getting crunched, but his back's back to full strength, so he was hugging left, right, and center.
He was up and about.
Why was Jalen Milroe at the draft on day one?
He got invited.
Yeah, well, obviously he got invited, but why? Like there was never really a rumor of him getting picked up in the first round, was there?
Maybe 12 months ago there was.
I think he just wanted to go.
But there weren't that many people there.
But I think you can still go for the experience of it because you'll never experience that again. Now, I know he didn't get drafted.
Well, you only usually get to
that.
experience it if you're a first round pick.
Well, not always.
How many do they take there? 40, 50?
No. It's only, how many get invited? About 15?
Yeah, there was only 15 or
Is it that
20.
few?
They introduced him they obviously had him out on stage before
Well, in
the
that
draft.
case, Milroe's a bit of a head scratcher.
Yeah, and that's why I was saying there's only 15, 20 guys that were there. So,
well, speaking of guys that were stuck in the green room, we have to talk Shedeur Sanders, right? Now, it's been done to death, but it is one of the biggest stories since we have covered the sport in the last, just over 3 years. It's the biggest slide in draft history, unless you guys can think of another one. He ended up going in the 5th round, pick 144 to Cleveland. Some mocks, including Mel Kiper's, had him going the 2nd overall pick, not the 2nd round, pick 2 to Cleveland. And he goes 142 picks later and 2 whole days later to Cleveland. And of course, of all teams, he ends up in the Browns quarterback room, which is just an absurd place to be. Joe Flacco, Deshaun Watson, Kenny Pickett, Dylan Gabriel, who they took in the 3rd round, and now Shedeur Sanders. So there was so much that happened. We had the prank calls, which turned out to be Jeff Ulbricht's son, the ex-interim coach of the New York Jets and now the defensive coordinator at the Falcons.
Falcons, yep.
I mean, what a weird world this is. He left his iPad unlocked. I mean, I suppose there's worse things you can discover on an unlocked iPad than Shedeur Sanders' phone number. But still, wrong hands and misused, right? It was just too mean to be funny, wasn't it? It would have been funny, but it was just too mean the way
it would have been funny if they called him up for pick 7 and then he ends up going at pick 9.
Correct.
But because he slid so far. I think the funniest part is that Sanders' contract is 4.65 million, something like that, over 4 years.
Yep.
If he stayed in college, they had his nil value between $5 and $6 million a year.
Oh my god!
So he stays another year in college. Mind you, next year the draft class is quite strong for quarterback, so he probably wouldn't even be drafted if this is how it's gone this year. But he could have stayed in college, made more money in a year than he will in the NFL in 4 years.
Well, I do have to say, I mean, it must have been humiliating and embarrassing for him with all the build-up, and then it pans out that way. To his credit, I think he handled it really well. He never really complained publicly. He was still up and about. I don't know whether it was real or not, but when he got picked by the Browns at 144, he was excited. He was jumping around. His brother was there. They were all celebrating. It's like, well, that's cool.
Ran and jumped in the pool.
We saw Keon White like sulking a couple of years ago when he was taken like 3 picks later than he thought he should have been when he got picked up by the Pats. And you see those, like, that's all theatre, you know? So at least if this is theatre, it's theatre in the positive way. So I haven't been a big rap on him because I never thought he was a first round quarterback. I didn't think he was a 5th rounder.
No, I didn't think he was a 5th.
I don't think anyone did.
I thought he would be drafted in the 2nd round by the Browns.
But what happened though is that it was an interesting study in psychology because all the other teams then started to get stubborn, and it was like nobody wanted to be the one who gave in and became a sucker by picking up Sanders. So then I know you'll touch on the Browns draft later. But when it comes to them, and they may have taken him at 2, they may have taken him in the 2nd or 3rd round, and yes, they had Dylan Gabriel, but why not? If the guy's there at 144, your room's cooked anyway. All the other franchises really, you don't want the Sanders distraction as the backup because it's a circus that comes with it. But the Browns just went, okay, well, this guy could turn out, and we get him at 144.
Well, you don't usually draft a record breaker at 144, do you? So like you said, you might as well take Sanders and see what happens.
But this isn't a guy, this isn't even the Tom Brady thing where he was taken in the 6th round and
because Brady was
because people didn't rate him.
No, that's right.
Whereas, and I know clearly NFL teams didn't rate him the way that the media did, but he has had at least a career that we look at and go, he's done well in college, right?
He's done okay in college. He was 1-8 against top 25 teams. He went 13-11. Like, that's not a good record.
Well, he's done better than getting picked at 144, considering the school he was playing for and all that.
I like the pick by Cleveland, but then why take Dylan Gabriel in the 3rd round?
Because they didn't expect Shedeur to still be there in round 5. They would have had no intention of taking both of them. None at all. When they took Gabriel, they would have thought, well, he's our preference over Sanders. And then a day later, Sanders is still sitting there and they go, well, all right.
Yeah. I think he'll beat out Dylan Gabriel for a high spot on the depth chart, to be quite honest, because I think he's a better quarterback.
Yeah. I mean, there's a real case for that. And I guess we can get more into that later. But I just wanted to ask you guys, I mean, how did you expect it to play out post day 1, Dos? You thought he would go in round 2 to who?
I thought the Browns were going to take him in round 2 with one of those 2 picks, either the pick that they used on Schlesinger or Judkins. Okay,
but once Schlesinger went, that's a hard one to say. Yeah. Once he went, everyone thought, well, they're not taking him, right?
Well, once that happened, then I thought, oh, maybe it's 3rd round to the Browns. I was pretty convinced he was going to go to the Browns.
Okay.
I couldn't see any. I don't think the Giants were never going to take him, even looking at the early ones, because of what the reports that came out that just Brian Daboll just wasn't impressed by him at all. The Steelers, I couldn't see taking him either. So to me, it left the Browns and the Raiders as the 2. And then I sort of thought about it more. They did sign Geno in the off season, and they just Brady passed on him. Well, Brady and others. Well, they passed on him like 8 or 9 times.
Well, and the other thing out of this, you mentioned Pittsburgh. So are they getting Rodgers now? Is that what's happening?
Must be.
What's going on?
Don't they?
Because they didn't get anyone except Will Howard in the 6th round.
Maybe they really like Will Howard.
Maybe they do. Let's just quickly go through the whole list of quarterbacks taken.
It's a good lesson, though, for anyone that wants, not just for future players that want to be drafted, but also just in life, around humility and, he's been humbled.
He has been
Sanders by this is not. This is no longer. You're now fighting for he's in the NFL, which is great, and he's there at the end of the day. And I hope he goes in with a chip on his shoulder and with the right attitude into training camp in the next couple of weeks, and gives it a real good crack.
And it shows. I don't know whether it shows stupidity or wisdom. I'm going with wisdom from the NFL franchises because we often lament the fact that they just reach for quarterbacks because quarterbacks are there, and they get so desperate and they take guys like Kenny Pickett, who was never really a first-round quarterback, right? But they didn't do that in this case. They rated what they think was character over talent. I think that's what it was. They didn't want the circus. They didn't want the arrogance that had been shown throughout the college career. So There's something commendable in that, and then it just turned into a standoff. Nobody wanted to be the sucker to take him. But hey, Cleveland may have gotten the bargain of a lifetime. We'll find out. The quarterback's taken. Cam Ward with pick 1 to Tennessee. We knew that, and we'll see how that one turns out. Pick 25, New York traded up to get Jackson Dart. That was their second pick in the first round. Round 2, you'll talk about this one later. Tyler Shuck. Are we saying Shuck? Is that how we're settling on his pronunciation?
That's how it is.
Well, it shouldn't be. It makes no sense. It's S-H-O-U-G-H. It should be Shoff or Show or Show.
It's Tyler Shuck.
Well,
So
yeah,
you
according
can-
to Americans who pronounce everything wrong.
Oh, you can come up with your own pronunciation for it.
I'm calling him
What do you want to call him then? Go on.
I'm calling him Tyler S.
TS. Just call him TS.
Yes. Well, he went pick 40 to the New Orleans Saints, which Dossie will talk about later. Round 3 saw 2 go. Jalen Milroe to the Seahawks and Dylan Gabriel to the Browns, as mentioned. Then it was nothing till round 5 when it was Sanders. So Cleveland took 2 quarterbacks in a row as far as the overall draft order is concerned. Round 6, we saw plenty go. The Eagles got Kyle McCord. The Steelers got Will Howard. The Colts got the lightning runner that is Riley Leonard. He might find himself starting this year if A-Rich continues. The Texans picked up a man called Graham Mertz, who you could have fooled me. I thought that was my dad's accountant. Las Vegas Raiders took Cam Miller at pick 215, and then Curtis Rourke went to the Niners in round 7. And Quinn Ewers got picked up late, 231 to Miami. So that's all the QBs taken. And that is all the...
Quinn Ewers 12 months ago, Hawley, was projected to be a first rounder, right?
Was he on the cover of College Football 25?
It could have been. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Not sure.
Sorry, did you have more to say about Ewers?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay. I just wanted, before we get to the first round, wanted to go through how we went in our mock draft, Dos. All right? Because I actually think we did really well. Now, a reminder that this is not, it wasn't a prediction exercise. We were being the general managers and picking that way. And we didn't have trades either, which makes it a bit hard. But still, boys, we got the first 6 picks exactly correct. In order, right names. I know the first 3 were relatively easy, but to then get 4, 5, and 6, that's pretty good. And then pick 7, I took Tet McMillan. He went at 8.
Really? I thought you would have gone Membu there.
Hey?
That was a consensus.
Yeah, well, I'm saying it's stupid. I can't believe I'm 1 pick off. He's already having a go.
I think most would have gone an offensive tackle for the Jets there.
I was surprised when you took McMillan.
But you also thought McMillan might go in like pick 27 or later, and he ended up going 1 pick after.
I thought he would be pick 12.
Okay.
Anyway.
What was it? Did you point at me?
No, if you went with an offensive tackle, then because I was going offensive tackle with the Saints, we would have almost had the first 10 picks. But we're never going to pick Loveland at 10.
No, but Dos did take a tight end, which is Tyler Warren.
Yeah.
And you went Membu at 8, and he went at 9 overall. So that was pretty good, the top 10. What else did we have? We got 25 out of our 32 picks went in the real life first round, which makes it harder when the actual big board is not the same as ours as time goes on. Others that we got close, Dos, we thought maybe you went early with Tyler Booker at 18. He went 12 in the real world. So not early enough, but you're still really close. I went to Booker at 16. He went 19, and people thought I was way too early there. Walter Nolan, Hawley, you picked at 17. He went at 16. You picked that the Green Bay Packers would get a wide receiver. They did. Not the same one, but they did. And Golden wasn't.
I wasn't available for Hawley. But
that's right. I picked a tackle for KC and a cornerback for Buffalo. And again, different players, but they went in that position. So I think it was good, boys. I think we should be proud of it. Happy with that, Dos?
I am. Hey, mock draft was a lot of fun. Looking forward to it again next. It was the best episode of the year, I think.
Yep. I might compare ours to Mel Kiper's and see how we stack up. My suspicion is we killed him. All right, boyos, we've got the first round that we want to delve into on the back of that mock draft chat. Now, we won't take forever on this, but of course, the first round is potentially the most consequential. So let's run through them very quickly. Cam Ward went number 1 overall to the Tennessee Titans. Hawley, you picked that. As time's gone on, I've become more comfortable with that pick and think maybe it'll work. Your thoughts now that it's a reality?
Yeah, as we mentioned, Tennessee needed a quarterback. He's been widely touted as the best quarterback in the draft, so it was a no-brainer. Yeah. We've spoken about it enough. I don't think there's too much to go into.
They did their duty. And then Dos, I was picking at 2 with the Browns, but Then James Gladstone, and this is another example of American pronunciation. Gladstone, they say it's Gladstone, right? But whatever. The 34-year-old, younger than us, general manager of the Jacksonville Jaguars, who
Not by much.
yeah, but still, facts are facts. He's
few
younger.
months.
He's younger, and that's humiliating to me. He traded up from 5 to 2
That's right.
to get. Who did he get?
Well, he got Travis Hunter. Them picks, Kurt. F them picks. He doesn't worry about it.
Yeah, well, you might not be thinking that next year, James, when you've mortgaged the future for Hunter, but we'll see.
Took big cojones, though, to make that trade.
It did.
2 weeks in the making as well with the Browns. They've been discussing this over the last 2 weeks, and there was a lot of noise in media circles in that last sort of 2 or 3 days before the draft where it was, the Jags are up to something, and the buzz around Mason Graham to the Jags was slowly dying, and it was becoming potentially Tet McMillan, Ashton Genty, or some sort of trade. And it turned out it was the trade up for Travis Hunter. Look, they need a corner and they needed a receiver. So
they got both.
They got both.
Yeah.
And look, they've come out, Liam Cohen has come out and said, I got a quote here from him, we'll have a plan right now of Travis Hunter, primarily on offense, with learning the defensive system and practicing on the defensive side of the ball as well throughout the off-season program, but he will primarily be on offense.
Okay. Well, that's one thing. And look, I'm saying it's a good pick. We rate Travis Hunter, obviously. But I will say, it made the draft incredibly exciting. So thank you, James Gladstone, for doing that, because that was a great move. And like you said, if it's your first draft, he's been in the job for about 2 months and he just went mental with it, which was fantastic.
And you could just imagine like his former boss, Les Snead, GM of the Rams, going,
proud of you, boy.
Well done.
Proud of you.
Trade away those first round picks.
And then Les trades out of the first. Come on, Les, back me up, mate.
He got one next year for Atlanta.
No, I know. He
got the Atlanta one.
But let's look at the flip side of that trade.
Yes.
And that is from the Browns' perspective. Now, I said the Browns have done potentially some really good business with Sanders. And I'm not used to saying this once, let alone twice. I think they've done something very good here with this trade out, because from their perspective, they moved down from pick 2 to pick 5. They end up getting Mason Graham. Good pick, right? We're happy with that. Down from 2 to 5. That's only 3 spots. For that, they moved up from 104 to 36. They moved up from 200 to 126. So 2 massive moves. And they got 2 running backs, which we'll talk about later, Hawley. They also gained Jacksonville's 2026 first-round pick. So for a team that for 3 years didn't have a first-round pick because of the Deshaun Watson disaster, and it's still the same general manager there, Andrew Berry, they've learnt their lesson, going, well, maybe first-round picks are valuable for us, especially when we only move back 3 spots for it. So I think Jacksonville will struggle again this year. So this pick could be high.
They've thrown a lot of assets at Trevor Lawrence here.
Yeah,
first round pick last year, Brian Thomas Jr. spent 2 years worth of free agency money on the offensive line, and also with Christian Kirk, Evan Engram before that, bringing those guys in. And now they've basically said, we're not worrying about the draft next year. We're in a position where we've given Trevor enough. Let's go out.
So you think this is the ultimatum? If Trevor's no good this year, then we're starting again?
I think so.
Without a first-round draft pick next year.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Interesting. We'll go to pick 3, which is mine, Abdul Carter to New York. We predicted this as well. The only bit I'll add, and I like the pick, is that apparently he asked Lawrence Taylor if he could wear the 56 this year. Lawrence said, no way, boy.
But the jersey's retired.
Yeah, I know.
So
he asked him to take it out of storage and take it down from the rafters.
If the number's retired, that's it.
I suppose the player can unretire his own jersey.
Is it
really
the player's choice or is it the team's?
I think you'd have a conversation.
It'd be on the player.
There's a character red flag early for Abdul. Also, he was arrested for assaulting someone a couple of years ago. That stayed very, very quiet. Very quiet in fact, not a couple of years ago, 1 year ago. Didn't hear any character concerns about that.
No.
Interesting what they looked past when they got their guy.
I like the pick, though. I love it.
You like the pick. I do like the pick. I think it's good too. That's a fearsome front 7 there now. Pick 4 was the New England Patriots, and that was Will Campbell, again, as predicted. Hawley, you're happy with your boy?
Yeah, I think like we mentioned in the in our draft episode, it's the safe pick. He'll help that offensive line, and hopefully he sits there in front of Drake May for the next 8-10 years and have a successful little period.
I look forward to analysing his analytics DOS on PFF for the next 5 years. That'll be good fun. Then it was Mason Graham, like I said, good pick for the defensive line. They needed defensive line help outside of Myles Garrett. It's a little lean there in Cleveland, so happy with that. Ashton Genty, DOS, as you predicted, then went to the Raiders. Spoke well, looked good, unit, good pick.
Oh, yeah. The noise on the Raiders potentially not taking him was crazy. The only way that they weren't going to take him is if a team managed to jump up ahead of them, I thought.
Yep.
In the draft order. Love the pick. Should work well with Chip Kelly. He's going to be a weapon. This is a pick that is we've got Pete Carroll as our coach. We've got Gino both of them together on a 3-year contract. Yep. We want to start winning games now. Yeah. This is not a developmental pick or a long-term prospect where you would take a tackle and we're going to build on that for the next 10 years. We want to get back to some sort of relevancy and some sort of competitive football and start showing a bit more on offense and start winning some games now.
Well, Gino is the game changer here. If there's no Gino, it doesn't make sense to take a running back. Now that there is Gino, it makes sense.
I love Ashton. Obviously, he's a Boise State boy, but I just don't see the Raiders want to win now. That's obviously what they're trying to do. But I don't think, are they in a position to win now? Is Gino the guy?
They are more with Gino than they were with AOC.
They are more, but they're still not really. I don't think adding Gino and Ashton turns them into a playoff team.
I'm not saying they're a playoff team, but I think they're a team.
That's what you're doing. If you
I reckon they're not picking at pick 6 next year with.
Yeah, I don't think they're quite as bad. I mean, what was the rest of their draft? They took Jack Beach or Jack Beck, however you want to say it, the wide receiver round 2, Darian Porter, the cornerback. So they've got some good pieces there, and they certainly needed to address that cornerback position.
They can get Christian Wilkins back from injury.
That's big.
That'll be massive. And obviously, Max Crosby was banged up all season last year, so a healthy Max Crosby makes a big difference. The defense still worries me, but this is looking better on offense than what it was 12 months ago.
All right, speaking of better on offense, the Jets have gone that other route and tried to keep developing that O-line. They took Amon Membu, the tackle. He'll sit on the other side of Olu Fashanu if that all works out well. Fantastic. And
starting to look better.
From
an O-line perspective, like from the trenches perspective, it's looking better in New York, but there's still a ways to go.
Good news for Breece Hall.
Last year, contract year for Breece Hall.
Yeah, big yards this year, Dos.
Time to shine. Tet McMillan, my boy, went to, your Panthers, Dos. What did you think of that?
Surprised, because I really thought they would go with Jalen Walker with this pick. Look, big contested catch receiver, and you know how much I like contested catch receivers, fellas. It's good for Bryce Young because last year, bottom line, the talent just wasn't great on the offensive side of the ball. Adam Thielen was their leading pass catcher, will be 35 years old. Jalen Coker is a third or fourth receiver. Now you've got...
They got him for free, though. He wasn't even drafted, so he was handy.
Yeah, but now you've got Tet McMillan, Xavier Legette on the outside, Thielen in the slot. They're not ankle-breaking receivers, but it's something. Yeah. It's better than what it was.
And having seen Legette last year, I'm not convinced he's a WR1. I think McMillan's got a far better chance of developing into that.
I think it's a smart pick. They could have gone elsewhere, like you said, but this one, they need Bryce Young to work.
Yep.
And Bryce Young's, that's not gonna help drafting a defensive player with pick 8. That's not gonna help Bryce Young work. The most important player in that team is Bryce Young. So they need to find some tools for him to make him comfortable, to make sure he works. So I think they had to address wide receiver with pick 8.
I'm not sure they had to address it there. I think they had.
I think they needed the best guy in the draft. They needed Tet, who's big. He's a big target. Or I would have been happy for them to take a tight end, take a big tight end, a big target for Bryce to throw to, because he needed, like you said, Dos, he needed that guy.
Well, I tell you what made me like the McMillan pick better is the fact that in the second and then third rounds they went edge for both. They went Nick Scoughton, who we like, and they went Princely Human Milan, one of the greatest names in the draft. I like both of those guys, and now they've just loaded up that edge because they were 30th in sacks last year. They could not sack to save themselves. Jadeveon Clowney, he didn't get his double-digit season there either, Dos. So I think, on balance, it was actually a pretty good draft. They just went about it in a sort of different way.
Yeah.
Pick 9 was Kelvin Banks to the Saints. Now you had, did you have Membu going?
I did, but
so
obviously,
tackle's a tackle.
yeah.
Yep.
I think pretty happy taking a tackle. We spoke about it in the mock draft. He'll sit opposite Talisi Fuaga, and we're hoping that they both sit there for a number of years and they create like a nice line. They didn't pick up 5th-year option on Trevor Penning, so that's probably where Kelvin Banks Jr. will start his football career.
It's the same model to the Jets.
Exactly.
Shore up the trenches on both sides.
Yep. It makes sense, and then they can look at they can possibly look at a quarterback next year.
All right, let's keep racing through. Colston Loveland, the tight end, we said, Doss, went at the Bears. Now, this was a shock. Well, not a shock, but it was a surprise because we all had Warren higher. I think most people did. What do you think the Bears saw in Loveland over Warren at tight end?
Purely that he is more of a receiving tight end.
Hey? No, Warren is a...
No, he's not. Colston Loveland is not a blocking tight. He's a receiving tight end.
Warren's numbers were better, though, weren't they?
His numbers were better, but this is just I
think Loveland only had 550 yards last year.
Yeah, but they just
not very
look
good
at
receiving tight end. Then,
you just look at him and he's a pure receiving tight end though. Colston Loveland. He's not a
they
blocking tight end.
So they just went for a guy that's worse at blocking.
Yeah, like I didn't.
You wouldn't have done it. You didn't do it.
No, I wouldn't have done it. I didn't do it. And when this came up, although I did spoil it for Hawley at the time, he said this is a surprise. And I'm a big fan of Colston Loveland, Michigan Wolverine.
Yep.
But I thought this was a pick that they, maybe it was too early to take Matthew Golden here, which is why they didn't. And then they thought, well,
what I like about this, I was going to talk about him as my draft riser because we didn't expect him to go 10. But Ben Johnson had Sam Laporta as a first-round tight end.
Yep.
With the Lions. And Sam Laporta had a very, very good rookie year. Last year, I think he was wasn't as good. But Ben Johnson, coaching Chicago now, he's got this big, young tight end, pick 10. I can see him turning Colston into a very, very good Sam Laporta. He's done it before, so I'm guessing he says, hey, Detroit, we had a really good big tight end. Get me a big tight end, and let's make it work.
Laporta was a second round, but I think, did he go ahead of Mayer? Was that the controversy at the time? They picked Laporta instead of Mayer, and people thought, what's going on there?
I believe so.
Yeah, I remember there was some noise about whether that was early or not. So yeah, you might be right. If Johnson can develop him the same way and sees the same tools, then cool. But it was a slightly odd one. Pick 11 was Michael Williams. He didn't go in our mock draft, but he went to San Francisco. Doss, very quickly run us through Michael Williams and Tyler Booker, the guard from Dallas, because they went to your teams.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is the Bobby Sala effect here.
Yep.
Back as the 4th defensive coordinator in 4 years for the San Francisco 49ers. Production for Michael Williams is probably a little underwhelming, but he did play with a high ankle sprain for most of the season. He actually had the fewest snaps of any of the edge rushers in this class.
Oh, good.
So that
let's take him at 11
because of injury.
Yeah. I know.
But yeah, I love his traits. I think he's actually fits really well into the 49ers defensive scheme, and I think he's going to be excellent next to Nick Bosa. I do like this pick. This was a pick that
you wish you made in the mock draft.
I do, because Will Johnson I had, and I thought he may go earlier, and then I actually was tossing up, and then I called an audible on the night and took Will Johnson instead of Michael Williams.
It's all right, mate. Happens to the best of us.
But that's okay. And he's only 20 years old too, young.
And Tyler Booker, the guard for Dallas, now they just refuse to make first-round picks that aren't named Tyler on the offensive line. This is the 4th in the last 6 years or something?
I think they've got three
Tyler
now,
Guyton, Tyler Booker.
They'll be standing next to each other.
And then there was Tyron Smith as well, they had for a while.
Oh, yeah.
Crazy. Good player?
Well, best guard in this year's class. Safe pick.
Yep.
For the Cowboys. Only allowed the 2 sacks in 900 and nearly 1,000 snaps at Alabama. Zach Martin retiring, future Hall of Famer, 7-time All-Pro. So
it was a need.
They needed to, guard was an absolute need. So teaming up with Smith, you hope Guyton improves. Terrence Steele at right tackle struggled a bit last season, but all of a sudden that's a hole on the O-line that they don't have to worry about for the upcoming season. So it's a smart pick.
All right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to rattle through the remaining picks. If you've got anything absolutely pressing, you let me know. Kenneth Grant, The defensive tackle went to the Dolphins. That was a little higher than we had him, but a couple of people thought they reached there, but they certainly needed some DT help after Wilkins is gone. Tyler Warren ended up going to Indy, as we said, the tight end. Be really interesting. You reckon he goes off, Hawley?
They're giving every opportunity for Anthony Richardson to shine now. I think that Tyler Warren's the best tight end in the draft. They've got him. He's got a weapon. It has to work. Has to work.
Pick 15, Dos, Jalen Walker, the linebacker, went to Atlanta. Now, you said everyone should be fired who's ever stepped foot in Atlanta if they didn't go defense. They went defense hard. Did you expect linebacker, or do you think edge, really? You like the Walker pick?
I do, because I think he slid. I think it's because he's a bit of a tweener.
Yes,
I don't think they know whether to play him as the traditional linebacker role or whether to play him off the edge.
And he's got the capability to play off the edge.
He does. So I love the pick for Atlanta.
Walter Nolan, Big Walter, he went to Arizona. They needed some help because, they've got a couple of aging or semi-deficient players on that D-line. Not terrible, but it is a brand new D-line room if you look at the players that were there 12 months ago at Arizona compared to now. One of the most experienced guys is Darius Robinson as far as Cardinals play, and he was a second rounder last year. So they've reshaped that. Pick 17, Shamar Stewart, a divisive one, no production, 4.5 career sacks, boys, Cincinnati, and they take him at pick 17.
He's a disruptor.
You say no production, but he had the highest pressure rate in college football last season.
What did he turn that into? Nothing. 4.5 sacks career.
He went.
I know it's not all sacks, but it does stand out.
He had a good combine, so I think they're looking at he's more of a disruptor than a sacker.
A what? A disruptor.
Disruptor.
Destructor. Destroyer or disruptor or both?
Disruptor.
He's a hybrid. He's a destructor. He can do it all. Pick 18, Gray Zabel went to Seattle. I know you'll like that one, the guard/tackle.
Oh, yeah, because the O-line was a mess last season, fellas. And outside of Charles Cross, Abe Lucas will be fine if he's healthy, but Zabel, he's a brawler. And he's going to start guard straight up week 1. I like it.
Like that. Amika Ibuka, the wide receiver, went to, succeed the Evans and Godwin combo in Tampa Bay. Jahdae Barron, the cornerback, he dropped a little further than we would, but a good pickup for Denver across from Pat Surtain. What a fearsome duo.
No fly zone 2.0. Like that a lot. Derek
Harmon, the DT, went to Pittsburgh, and that was when the Shedeur Sanders panic button started to get hit, because if he didn't go there, where the heck was he going? Amari and Hampton, I was a bit surprised by this for the Chargers, to be honest. They picked up Najee Harris in free agency, and I know he's not a world beater, but he's a good grinding running back. I thought they had other needs. I thought they would go D-line, especially with the names that were still on the board. James Pierce Jr. was there, amongst others, but they went running back. So were you surprised by that, Hall?
I was, yeah. Because I thought J.K. Dobbins had a reasonable year last year. There were still a couple little injury concerns, and he's free agent. He hasn't been signed.
No.
Yeah.
So I figured maybe Najee, J.K., they share the load, and that works well. But taking Hampton, it is surprising to spend your first round pick on a running back when you've just signed a running back, and it is quite a deep draft at running back. So they could have addressed this in the 3rd or 4th round.
I guess looking at it though, Najee Harris is only a 1-year deal.
Yeah, you're right.
So then you're in the same. Unless you want to address it, you're in the same spot again next year. So I like the pick if he's their if he can be their franchise running back. It's Greg Roman pick though. At run and pound, the ground and pound.
Because they're not too far away either, the Chargers. Playoff team. So pick 23, Matt Golden, Doss. Happiest man on earth. I was going to mention this in the pre-show, but I thought we'd wait until now. You wanted Golden. You wanted him badly, and you couldn't believe that he was still there at 23, and you couldn't believe, I'm assuming, that the Packers actually took him.
No, I couldn't. And I thought this was going to be a D-line. I thought maybe Azaraku. I wasn't sure. Was Derek Harmon still available here too?
No, he went at 21.
Yeah.
Oh, no, he went early. Yeah, that's right. I think that they may have looked to Harmon if he was still available, this pick. But, first time in 23 years the Packers have drafted a wide receiver in the first round. With Jordan Love throwing the ball, I'm excited to see Matthew Golden. He is speed, 4.29 on the 40. Crisp route runner with Christian Watson down with the ACL, fellas. And he showed up in big games last season for Texas. So I still think he's the best pure wide receiver in this draft. You want to call Travis Hunter a hybrid, that's fine. But I love Matthew Golden. I reckon he's a star.
Minnesota staying in the division. They went Donovan Jackson, the guard, which initially surprised me. But then I thought, no, it makes sense because they got Ryan Kelly center. Then they went Will Freeze on one side as guard. Now they've shored up the other guard position. Maybe a reach, maybe a bit odd, but
it surprised me because they only had 4 picks in the draft, and the first one they spent on a guard. That was
but
a bit that surprised me.
But they're also protecting a second-year quarterback who hasn't played and is coming off a major injury. So clearly O'Connell's saying, all I want to do is protect JJ.
Yeah, I mean,
I like it. I think it's smart.
he probably won't play much, but
Who?
this season.
Jackson?
No, I don't think.
I think he will. I think he'll slot in.
You think so?
I think he'll slot in opposite Freeze.
Okay.
See how that one pans out. Jackson Dart, the trade up to the Giants. Interesting pick. Really interesting pick. Again, the Shedeur panic really setting here.
I think we all thought they've traded up.
Yeah.
This is Sanders. His time has come. And then it's Jackson Dart.
But we were speaking off air, Hawley. I mean,
I like it.
Whether you like Dart or not, at least the plan is there. He's got Russell Wilson to learn under for a year.
There's no pressure on it. There's no pressure on Dart
pressure.
to walk out week 1 and perform. And we've seen that happen before with New York Giants with Daniel Jones.
Yep.
Just had offensive line was horrible. Receivers, there wasn't much to throw to. If they throw Jackson Dart into that, it's the same. It's probably the same situation. So now Russell Wilson, Winston, he sits there for a year. Who knows? Russell might play really well. They sign him for another. I don't know what will happen, but at least now there's no pressure on Dart to come out, perform well. He can sit for a year and learn his craft. I mean, he's a little bit old. He's 25. So by the time he does maybe start, he'll be 26, 27. So he would have played enough footy.
Footy. I love it. James Pierce Jr. continued the Atlanta defensive trend, Doss, which you'd be happy about. But they had to trade in, and it cost them a future first-round pick as the Rams traded out. So you like the player, you like the fit at Atlanta, I assume?
I do.
But you don't like the cost.
Well, it was a bit to pay. Look, I can understand why they did it because he wouldn't have been available later on. Well, they move up 20 spots, I think, and the future first. So it was a bit to give up. That's the only thing. I don't like giving up future first.
Walker and Pierce, though, sounds good. Coming out of the draft with Walker and Pierce.
I do like it. It's much better than what it was this time last week.
Yep, agreed. Just to round it out, Malachi Starks, he fell a little bit, the safety, but we always said he was a hard one to place. He went to Baltimore in the end, so a nice pickup for them. Tyleik Williams, a defensive tackle from Ohio State, went to Detroit. I'll speak more about Detroit later on. Josh Connolly, the offensive tackle, went to Washington. Doss, surprised. I mean, they picked up Tunsil in a big trade in the offseason. Did they need Connolly as well?
Yeah, didn't surprise me at all. Sam Cosme's out with an ACL.
Yeah, true. Okay.
For this season. This is just Adam Peters. You spoke about JJ McCarthy before. Well, this is Adam Peters going, I'm shoring up the O-line to protect Jaden Daniels to give him every opportunity to become the best quarterback in the league. And this was the most surefire pick. When you look at others taken around him, there was question marks maybe over character or injuries. Josh Connolly, no issues. I know he predominantly played left tackle at Oregon, but he had great tape against Abdul Carter, so that's important.
All right, last few picks. All good over there, Holly?
Yeah, just grab me a charger, mate.
All right. While you're at it, can you check to see if my phone's still recording? Is that still going?
Phone is recording, but it is on low battery.
20 or 10%? What do we got there?
So we're at 20 at the moment.
Okay, then we're fine.
We're running it down. We're fine.
Maxwell Hairston, the cornerback, went to Buffalo. We spoke about that. The Eagles have done it again. They got a steal. They went up one pick. They gave the Chiefs an extra pick, which is nice, just to move up one spot.
Well,
they
tried to trade into 21, 22, 23.
Yeah.
And I think maybe even 24, and they got rejected every time. And I think Harry just thought, stuff it, I'll just see what happens, and got him at 31.
And that's who they wanted all along?
Yeah.
Oh, gee, it just continues to work for those guys, doesn't it?
This is the other teams, and we spoke about it at the time, going, we don't want to be seen to be getting fleeced.
Too scared to trade with him.
We're not getting a trade with Howie Roseman. And
it worked out in his favour.
And it worked out beautifully for the Chiefs too. And I'll speak about this later, or you will, Hawley, because they got Josh Simmons, the offensive tackle from Ohio State, at 32. So that's the first round. That's a great pick for the Chiefs. I can't believe that happened.
If he's healthy next season, I think will be the best rookie tackle out of all of this group.
Well, that is exactly what we're about to talk about, isn't it?
We will in about 3 seconds. Teams we loved in the draft. All right, let's have a clean segue, Hawley, because we were just talking about the Chiefs and Josh Simmons, and we independently, without sharing it at all, both had the Chiefs and both had the Browns as the teams that we loved out of the draft. So tell us about the Chiefs.
I like the Chiefs purely on that one pick. I think like Doss said, we know with the injury concerns of last year, missed a lot of last year, but if Josh Simmons is healthy, he's fit, I think he can be the best tackle in the draft, and the Chiefs have grabbed him at pick 32.
Yep.
Now, they would have done their research. They would have interviewed him, whether or not he can work out, probably not at the moment.
Not yet.
But they would have done everything they needed to do to make sure that this guy is going to be healthy, his knee's going to be okay, and you trust that it's going to work. So the rest of the draft, I think Norman a lot, Ashton, these guys, I think they'll start, third, fourth stringers. They'll be depth players to start off with, and then that they'll move into a starting role at some stage.
Well, I had the Chiefs too, but for a bit of a different reason. I do love the Simmons pick. Can't believe he was still there, but I'll take it. Like you said, Omar Norman-Lott, defensive tackle, maybe a little early in the second round, but I see what they're trying to do. I wanted a DT to complement Jones, and they've got him. Ashton Gillott, he's on the edge. Noel Williams at cornerback. They were both positional needs. Whether you like the players at those positions or not, that's one thing. But I think where their draft really took off, boys, outside of Simmons, was day 3. They got Jalen Royals, the wide receiver from Utah
That's a good
State.
pick.
Another need. ESPN had him as their 9th wide receiver overall. The Chiefs took him as the 18th overall receiver. They had him 62 on their big board, ESPN. The Chiefs got him at 133. And then they similarly stole Jeffrey Basser, the linebacker, in the 5th round. Perhaps the most impressive and crucial moment of all is that they got in the 7th round running back Brashard Smith. Now, we need a running back at the Chiefs. You know that. Pacheco's fallen off of a cliff. Kareem Hunt can't do it for much longer. Smith is the SMU yards record holder. He was ranked about 150 by both Daniel Jeremiah and ESPN, and the Chiefs got him at 228. So if you had asked me about all of the pieces, I went on Cowboys Can Fan and listed all these needs for the Chiefs that they had, Doss, and they pretty much addressed all of them. And they got players, in some of those cases, far ahead of their value, or far behind their value, I should say. So I think it's a good Chiefs draft, and day 3 helped.
Yeah, I think that Brett Veach has done a great job with drafting. Doesn't always nail the skill position picks if you go back and have a look through, but certainly on the defensive side of the ball, he absolutely does. And they addressed all their needs. Simmons is the big one, though.
Yeah.
If Josh Simmons is healthy, best tackle in the draft, and that is just going to lift that entire offensive line next season. So I'm hoping he is, because Mahomes needs that protection.
I think Smith and Royals could be some fantasy football darlings that go late in rookie drafts, and all of a sudden, like, how did you get that guy? Smith ends up, 100 yards a game kind of rookie, like a real good effort. And Royals is that guy that I think he's got a little bit of Rashee Rice about him, and we saw that Rashee Rice I thought he was on track to have a top 5 receiver season last year before he went down injured. So I think Royals will slot in very nicely. Yeah,
they'll be more popular in fantasy drafts than the real draft, that's for sure. Doss, give us a team that you really liked before Hawley and I dissect the Browns some more.
Oh, I love what Seattle did. So Gray Zabel we spoke about for the offensive line, which was a massive need. Plug and play week 1, fellas. GM John Schneider finally went with an interior offensive line pick. It wouldn't have surprised me had he drafted Nick Imanwari in the 1st round.
I know you loved that pick in the 2nd.
When he picked 35, they traded up to get him as well, safety out of South Carolina, who killed it at the draft combine. But I'm really keen to see how Mike McDonald uses him with Julian Love and Bryant in that secondary. Then at pick 50, they took Elijah Arroyo, the tight end, out of Miami, who had a pretty good season, for a tight end. Excellent yards per reception. And then at pick 92, Jalen Milroe, who, like Jackson Dart, has time to sit and learn behind Sam Darnold, right? So, and physically, Jalen Milroe is the best athlete out of all the quarterbacks in this draft. Like, he's an athletic freak, this guy. And he could even be used potentially in the red zone on some trick plays and some run plays and things like that. He's that type of player, which is cool.
Yeah. I mean, they were screaming for O-line protection, and they got some other places they needed it too. So,
and there's another guy here, the running back, who they took with pick 223, Damian Martinez, PFF had him at 80 on their big board, and they got him at 223. Goes at 6.2 yards per carry last season in Miami.
Like that.
83.4 rush yards per game. So getting a player like that with pick 223, you're in the last round.
Yep.
That's excellent value.
Yep.
With Kenny Walker and Zach Charbonnet.
I like that. That's a good draft.
That's a great draft for the Seahawks.
Well, before we get to the Browns and then your other one, which is the Ravens, I believe, Dos, I'm going to tell you two teams quickly that underwhelmed me in the draft.
Okay.
The first one is the Bengals. I think their needs going in hamstrung them a little bit to taking players earlier than they should have because, like we said, Shamar Stewart on the edge, that pick 17, I think is a reach. Demetrius Knight, love him as a man. That interview was great, but he was projected in the 80s or later. Jeremiah didn't have him in his top 100 players. Ends up going at 49. But again, they needed that spot to complement Logan Wilson, Jermaine Pratt and co. And then Dylan Fairchild, the guard, he was taken at 81, but he wasn't in Daniel Jeremiah's 150 prospects. And again, that's not the be-all and end-all, but there were potentially other options there. But they've sort of hamstrung themselves with a few roster holes and prioritizing other areas like the wide receiver room. Inevitably, that comes at a cost, which can compromise you a little on draft day. So I don't think they've gotten better. I don't think they've actually added a day one starter with their picks. Stewart, people will say is, but I'm not sure he is straight up. So that's my criticism of the Bengals.
Yes, Stewart. He'd have to. You wouldn't have him starting week one.
I think he's line ball. It depends.
You'd have a sigh over him.
You'd want to have a good mini camp. That's all. I wonder what we'll be hearing at a mini camp with Stewart, but who knows? I could be completely wrong. He could be a freak.
Yeah, I mean, Knight at linebacker. They've got Jermaine Pratt, Logan Wilson in there. It's a draft that doesn't wow me.
It doesn't.
If I'm a Bengals fan, again, if I'm a Cincinnati Bengals fan, Hawley, I'm looking at that offensive lineup and going, it's plenty of points and plenty of yards again this year, fellas, because I don't think the defense is going to be a whole lot better than what it was.
The other team that underwhelmed me was another big cat. It's the Detroit Lions. So it seemed like there weren't only reaches, but a few strange positional choices. Yes, they needed that DT help. That's where they went with Tyleik Williams, pick 28. But Donovan Ezeraku was still there. Mike Green was still there, and you'll talk about him at the Ravens, Dos. But I thought they were going to go the other side and help Hutch coming back from his broken leg, get some attention on the edge.
Yeah.
And they didn't do it. And those names were still there, and, character stuff, we know that. But I thought they might have gone there. Tate Ratledge, I like at guard in the second round, so that's good. He starts opposite Glasgow. But then the one that really made me scratch my head was Isaac Tesla, or however you like to say that name. Wide receiver. They took him at 70. He was a guy who was around 150 or lower on a lot of big boards and has had he's had 895 yards in college. That's it. 5 touchdowns. That's it. Over 2 years in college. That's hardly anything to really show what player he is. And they gave up 2 third-round picks for him to move up to that position. So they paid quite a price for a guy who was pretty low on most boards, hasn't really proven it with production. Could be a wild card. You never know. They pick pretty well offensively there these days. But just seemed odd. Just seemed an odd draft to me for the Lions.
Yeah, I thought they would look at the pass rush. I thought was their biggest need coming in.
Yeah,
and I can understand why they went with Tyleik Williams, just because that
I get that
defensive line. DJ Reed has been banged up a bit. Lee McNeil, same. Both have had injuries last season, and Reeder, if you want to go back a bit further, has had injury concerns over multiple years. So I can understand that grabbing Williams there.
It was mainly the Tesla pick.
Yeah, I mean that's a bit further down, but yeah, to your point, trading up or giving away the 2/3 to get him as well was maybe a little excessive.
I just expect a bit more juice from the Lions these days, and I didn't feel it. Anyway, let's go to the Browns, Hawley. You like the Browns draft.
I did. I think Mason Graham and Carson S. Is that what we're calling him?
Yep, Schwessinger.
Carson S. They're both first-team All-Americans. Graham was a unanimous selection. I think they did well with both of those picks. I'm pretty happy with what they've done there.
Well, just going at linebacker with Schlesinger, because JOK, Owusu Koromora, has had that recurring neck injury, and he's been a great player, but if he continues to struggle with that, they need some help there.
And the pick I probably like the most is Harold Fannin. He led the FBS in receptions and yards last year for a tight end. They got him out with pick 67. He could easily turn into the best tight end in this draft. Now, obviously,
Does that hurt David and Joku fantasy owners, Hawley?
I think it does.
It
I
really
think it
hurts them. I'm a little upset, to be honest, because he was big for me last year. But Dave is getting older, and Harold is. I really like Harold. Like I said,
Harold.
I just love Dave and Harold.
Actually, that is a good little
Neighbours.
tight end room, isn't it? Play 2 tight ends, Harold, Dave. It works. The running back room now, they drafted 2 really good running backs. Obviously, Quinshon Junkins and Dylan Sampson out of Tennessee. I guess, are they thinking their win now, Dos? Taking 2 running backs this year. I feel like they went a year early with their running backs. However, if these 2 guys are as good as they're supposed to be, they can be a very, very dangerous 1-2 punch out of the backfield, and they can be dangerous for the next 5, 6, 7 years. So it might not really matter.
I was surprised they took Judkins over Henderson. That kind of surprised me more than because I think Henderson just offers you a little bit more.
Well, I guess that's why they've gone.
backfield,
That's why they've gone 2. They've gone both of them with Sampson as well.
Well, what I liked, and I said it before, was that these were the bonus picks from the Jags trade.
Moving
So
back
there's
from 2 to
nothing
5.
lost there. We didn't have these before, so we may as well
Have a crack.
Let's
And like I said, if these guys, if they produce really well in college, if they can bring that to the NFL, then they've grabbed 2 running backs, or very, very good running backs.
And also, it wouldn't have been really excusable for them now that Chubb's gone to just stay with Jerome Ford as the number 1. They needed at least one.
They needed a guy. Now, the quarterbacks, Dylan Gabriel and obviously Sanders, we've spoken a lot about them. Sanders, I mean, the guy's got a chip on his shoulder, and let's be honest, I don't know if anyone can predict what's going to happen now. No one thought he'd fall this far. At one stage, he was predicted to be the top pick in the draft, or top 5 pick, top 10 pick at worst, and they've picked him up at, 5th round, pick 144. What I love about it is that they've got 2 rookie quarterbacks now that they can just rotate through their rookie season. They can say, hey, we're giving Sanders a crack this week. Nah, no good for a month. Let's see how Gabriel goes. And if one of them hits, then bang, they got 2 first-round picks next year to go and build around these 2 guys. It's a
unique.
good plan.
It's cool.
We've spoken about these teams just needing a plan. Just what's your goal? What's your plan for the draft for this year, next year? I feel like this is their plan, because if they come out and say, hey, Sanders and Gabriel, no good. We don't like them. They're terrible. We want to move on and find a new quarterback. Then next year's draft is the draft to do it. They're talking about next year's QB draft in similar terms to, or similar light to last year's quarterback draft with Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, Michael Penix, all these guys. And Cleveland are going to go into that with 2 first-round picks. So you'd expect, if they have a poor season this year under the 2 rookie quarterbacks, Jacksonville don't do too well, then prime spot to take the first pick in the draft last year and take the best quarterback in a very, very strong quarterback class. They don't want to, but they've set themselves up in case they are there.
I think they will be.
Well, yeah, I mean, who knows? The way I summarize this draft for the Browns is, if we didn't know how this last 3 days had played out, and we're not looking at the numbers of where people were taken, if I said to you, Dos, right, the Browns are going to come out of this draft with Shedeur Sanders, Mason Graham, all those other picks, and an extra first next year, you would have said, how the heck did they do that? And somehow they've done that.
Yeah, it's fair. I just don't know who's starting week 1 for this team.
I don't think it matters.
No.
I don't think it matters.
I think...
Well, it kind of does if you want to... So you...
Well, because it's like Hawley said, it's a mission in discovery now. Which of these 2...
So that means I will be back here in 12 months' time with a low first-round pick again.
Well, maybe...
A high first-round pick, depending on how you want to look at it.
Yeah,
maybe or maybe not, but one might hit, right? We've seen that if rookie quarterbacks hit and turn out to be good, they can make playoffs, they can...
Most of the time, teams that are starting a rookie quarterback have a low pick the next year anyway. It's not often we see a Jaden Daniels do or we don't see what happened in Washington. It's not.
Who gets cut? You got Flacco, you've got Gabriel.
Kenny goes.
Kenny Pickett goes, and then, they carry 3
Who
plus
they just
Watson,
traded
IR.
What they give up to Kenny Pickett?
Oh, it was like a 5th round pick, wasn't it? Anyway.
And then you've got Deshaun Watson still sitting there with a torn Achilles.
Well, he's IR though, right? So he doesn't count on the list.
Yeah.
They can keep the other 3.
Yeah.
Depends when he gets back, though, I guess.
Yeah.
All right.
So
anyway,
if you activate him,
it's a weird.
Never activate him again.
It's a weird QB room, but it's exciting. I'm excited to see what Sanders and Gabriel, because Sanders could be the guy still.
He could be.
Why can't he be?
Never know. You never know. All right, Dos, let's finish with a more conventional draft approach, and that was the Baltimore Ravens.
Well, it was conventional because GM Eric DaCosta just let the let the players fall to him. Didn't make any trades in draft, which they are known for doing historically, the Baltimore Ravens. They're going to back their culture in Harbaugh, DaCosta and was the reason why they took Mike Green, who's got the 2 sexual assault allegation cases against him, which he denies.
We do need to point out, though, he's never been charged or arrested. For
allegations. I didn't say that.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're
not charges.
Yeah, but it pays to be clear. I mean,
all right. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm saying there are some players who have.
That is why he fell to pick 59, though.
Yes, well, but to contrast against Isaiah Bond, the wide receiver from Texas, who was meant to be a second rounder and didn't get picked, he was arrested. He turned himself in and was arrested, and that's currently an investigation ongoing.
Yeah.
Green, by contrast, has had 2 allegations that have floated around since his high school days, right, that actually haven't resulted in anything tangible yet. So just for sake of fairness to him, we do need to mention that as much as it's a murky situation.
Yeah, and that's fair. Sack leader in college last year. So if he turns out, all that off-field stuff sorts itself out, and we look at his production on-field, that's a great pick for Baltimore and a need as well on the edge. Malachi Starks is just a Raven.
It's the most Ravens pick ever.
Oh, it is.
Which is a great compliment.
And it's so good, just the flexibility that he provides in the secondary. Cole Hamilton can play up close to the line of scrimmage now, which is where he played in his All-Pro 2023 season.
Teams must be livid that Hamilton gets more flexibility.
Yeah.
That's the worst thing for everyone else.
And Starks and Malachi Starks can just lock down. He can play, strong safety, free safety. You can play him at the nickel. It's just a great pick, and they didn't have to do anything to get him.
They did not. It's another good draft for the Ravens. They get stronger. We'll be back in just a second. All right, boys, a couple of risers and fallers. We'll go through this very quickly because we've got to get to Joke of the Week and wrap this up. We're already over an hour. So I'll start. I've got just a couple of names I'll throw out. Isaiah Bond, I just mentioned, the wide receiver from Texas. Do also need to point out he has strongly denied those allegations too, or the situation that's ended in the arrest. But teams looked at him and didn't touch him. And this was a theme, boys. Any players who seemed to have some stink attached to them, some controversy, whether it was humility stuff, whether it was storylines, whether it was off-field dramas or, potential legal issues.
Medicals,
they dropped. Shedeur Sanders, we know about that. Isaiah Bond, I just mentioned. Mike Green, you mentioned before, he dropped. The other one, Xavier Restrepo. Remember that name? Wide receiver from Miami. He was one of Cam Ward's weapons. He's had 2,200 yards and 17 touchdowns in his last 2 years of college out of the slot. So he's been a productive guy. And at one point, he was potentially a second, probably a third-round pick. Then he ran that 4.8 40-yard dash at the pro day. Remember? And everyone said, well, Restrepo's the slowest man on earth. We thought he would drop to like the 5th round, maybe the 6th. He didn't get drafted at all. And then Tennessee picked him up as a UDFA, undrafted free agent. So I actually like that from the Titans. They've, based on one metric, got a guy they would have had to spend a 3rd or 4th round pick on, and now they've just added him for free. So that was a weird one. Dos, who was your slider?
Donovan Ezeraku for edge, pick 44 to the Cowboys. He was the ACC Defensive Player of the Year. Most mocks had him as a top 20 pick, worst case back end of the first round. He's a little undersized for a pass rusher, which we spoke about during our mock draft, but 1.38 sacks per game last season. I think he's going to come in and should have an immediate impact for the Dallas Cowboys, especially on passing downs and the Matt Eberflus offense. I think they've got a good pick there.
Who was your slider?
My slider was Shedeur Sanders. Didn't get drafted.
Oh, yeah.
Probably
it's a bad weekend for the Sanders boys.
Well, he probably wasn't expected to get drafted, but I actually kind of like him. So he plays safety, and he's signed at Tampa now, unrestricted or undrafted free agent. He had 1,500 snaps in college. He allowed only 590 yards, 3 TDs. He had 6 picks and 7 forced fumbles. Now, compare that to some other safeties in the NFC South. So his stats outweigh Jesse Bates, Jordan Fuller, Nick Scott, Justin Reed, Jordan Whitehead, Anton Winfield. His college stats are better than all of these guys.
His college versus their college.
Stats. That's all we've got to compare to at
but
the moment.
That wasn't their NFL stats. That was their college stats.
They were their college stats. Okay. So his college stats outdo a lot of these guys. Now, he did play 2 seasons in the FCS, so he's only got 2 seasons of Div 1 football there to compare the stats to. But he could be a bit of a steal for the Bucs.
Like it. Going deep. Good one, Hawley. Let's get to our risers. We'll just do one each. I had Jackson Dart. We've talked enough about him, so we don't need to go any more into that. But yeah, if you'd said that he was going after Sanders and being traded up for in the first, if you said that six weeks ago or 12 weeks ago, I don't think that would have been accepted.
Well, we
very
kind of
widely.
did, didn't we? There was this time where we were talking about him being the second QB taken off the board.
Maybe 6 months ago.
But then that kind of drifted off a little bit, didn't it?
It went up and down.
All of a sudden, just went straight back.
Yeah, I didn't really believe it till I saw it, but then it happened. So good luck to him. Doss, who was your riser?
Well, Tyler Shark, Saints at pick 40.
Oh, yeah, Showy, I call him.
Right, like
Show.
so.
Shoff.
3 seasons at Oregon,
So
where he was a backup to Justin Herbert.
Yep.
2 or 3 seasons at Texas Tech, and then finally to Louisville last season, which was his first full season without injury. And he was pretty good.
Yeah.
3,000 passing yards, 23 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 62.7% completion rate.
Was he second round good?
That's he's going to turn 26 next season. And the Saints had picks at 71 and 93 and even 112. And I'm fairly confident that Tyler Shuck would probably have been available
I think he would have.
at any of those picks. So, no, I haven't watched enough of his game film. I haven't watched enough Louisville football, to be quite honest with you. But what I do love about Tyler Shuck is his perseverance and facing adversity through college with some significant injuries, broken bones. And he's been able to come back and put together this season and now get drafted into the NFL to a team where Derek Carr has a lot of question marks over his current shoulder injury, which the Saints are keeping very, very quiet at the moment. No one sort of seems to know what's going on there, which leads me to think that it might be a bit more serious than what they're letting on. So
I've heard he might not play.
Yeah.
This year.
I think it's quite a serious injury. So that could be good news for Tyler Shuck and Spencer Rattler. But again,
I think it's bad news for Spencer Rattler that Shuck was taking this.
Well, it is. Yeah, okay, if you want to look at it like that. And then you've got Jake Hayner who's on there too. So they refused to draft a quarterback in the first round, the Saints. They haven't done it ever. And the only team never to draft one in the first round.
Okay.
There's a good trivia. I should have saved that for trivia.
Sneaky bad draft from the Saints. Have a look at it.
Yeah, I didn't really.
Yeah, there's nothing that really excites me there.
No, I didn't love it.
Sorry, boys. Last one, Hawley, before we get to the joke of the week.
We've already spoken about him. My rise was Colston Loveland.
Oh, yeah.
Like I said, spoken about him. The big win for him is that he is now making $26 million over 4 years rather than the possible, 18, 19 that he would have been where we thought he was going to get drafted. So
there you go.
Good work, Mr. Loveland.
Well done, CL. All right.
Well, I had him pick 13 to the Colts.
I suppose you did.
Yeah, true.
I couldn't see him going past the
Indy at 14.
I think the surprise was that
14.
The surprise was that he went before Tyler Warren.
That was more
was
the
a surprise.
Yeah.
All right. There's no surprise here. It's joke of the week.
Why did the kid bring a ladder to school? They wanted to go to high school. Did you climb up a ladder? Go higher?
Yeah, I get it.
Kurt?
Yeah, I laugh, man. I laugh.
Yeah, okay.
I laugh.
He gives you nothing, does he?
I just sometimes a bit slow with the joke.
Yeah.
I think he just laughs because you laugh.
Yeah.
I think it's cool to laugh.
I couldn't. But sorry.
Here we go. Turns the music down. Here we go.
Better defend myself.
Get the soapbox out. Kurt's getting fired up.
Well, one
Here we go.
An often stated criticism is that I don't laugh, and you're upset about that, and you constantly point that out. And when I do laugh, you say I laugh just because Doss does, and I have to do it to be cool. So which one is it? Do I not laugh enough, or do I laugh too much, Chris?
It's both, mate. I'm not saying you laugh. I'm not saying you laugh.
Possibly be both.
I'm not saying you laugh too much. I'm saying you only laughed because Doss laughed.
Oh, so you feel it's a charity laugh?
Yeah, he just didn't get the joke. He's not quite.
Bit of group
with it.
think
Yeah.
from Kurt. Okay.
Not quite there. All right.
Yeah, see, still doesn't get it, does he?
You can plan next week's show, Holly. We'll see how that goes. All right, that's the Outback QB podcast
Fine by me,
for
mate.
another week.
You don't want me planning the show.
I don't want it.
Nothing will get done.
It's exactly my point. Have you guys still got me in the mic, by the way?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, it's dropping off over here. We've got some tech issues. We'll see you all next week. That's the Outback QB podcast. Doss, you rest up. It's been a big few days for you in particular.
Has been.
Good draft
Love
coverage.
it.
Hawley, you rest up too, mate. All right? Don't overextend yourself this week. Make sure you don't. Okay?
Got it.
Sweet. We'll be back next week.
See you guys.
See you guys.
Bye, guys.